Assalamu alaikum YouTube, this is Said Mirza. In today's video I wanted to discuss the issue of taking precautions. In my discussions with my relatives, most of them are obviously brainwashed and following the media. The same questions and points arise again and again, which is what's the hurt in putting on a mask if there's a small chance that it can protect your grandmother from dying? Or yeah, we understand that we should place our trust in God, but at the same time, we should use our common sense and that we should take precautions. So I'm sure you've had similar discussions with your relatives. So I figured I would look in the Quran to see if we have some guidance on this matter, because yes, it is true that we should be trusting God, and the Quran also talks about taking precautions, but that's just one side of the picture. So hopefully in this video we can gain some clarity from the Quranic verses on what this issue is all about. These are some verses that popped up in my head when I researched this issue. I'm sure there are other verses out there, but I think that this is a good subset that goes over some of the questions that arise when we discuss these issues with our relatives who call themselves Muslims, which by definition means one who submits to God's will. So I wanted to start with chapter 4, verse 71, and it says, "O you who heed warning, take your precautions and advance in groups or advance all together." So definitely, we do have God's commandment that we should be taking precautions, and this is obviously in the context of a battle. The believers, those who were to heed warning, the allazina amanu, were to advance in groups or advance all together. By the way, these translations are from Brother Gerrans' work, The Quran, A Complete Revelation, which can be downloaded for free from Qur'anite.com. Okay, so the next one is chapter 12, verses 67 and 68. And a little bit of a background is necessary. So basically, this is Yaqub. He is advising his sons to go and seek information about their brother who has just recently been arrested. And obviously, this is a hostile city, so he's asking them to take some precautions. He says, "And he said, O my sons, enter not at one gate, but enter at diverse gates. And I cannot avail you in anything against God. Judgment is only for God. In him do I place my trust, and in him let trust those who would place their trust aright. And when they entered in what manner their father had commanded, it was not to avail them anything against God, save as a desire of Yaqub's soul, which he satisfied. And he was a man of knowledge due to what we taught him. But most men know not." So there you have it. Yaqub is advising his sons to take precautions to enter from one gate and not enter from diverse gates, not one gate, because back in the day, the city was basically encompassed by gates for protection. So he's asking them to not all go in one group through one gate because they would get noticed. It's better to split up. But he understood that this would not help them in anything against God's plan. And this is exactly what happened. They followed their father's command, and it did not help them. It says it was not to avail them anything against God, save as a desire of Yaqub's soul, which he satisfied. So this was just Yaqub's desire, which he satisfied. And if we are to follow the Prophet's examples, then definitely we should be taking precautions, but we need to understand that these precautions will not help us in anything against God. What God has willed will happen. And this is the same argument with people who say, okay, so you don't wear a mask, but you do wear a seatbelt. Yeah, that's correct. I do wear a seatbelt, and the reasoning behind that is that is a satisfaction for my own soul. And sometimes I don't wear a seatbelt, but then that annoying chime comes in on the car's dashboard, and just to shut it up, I put on a seatbelt. So basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that no matter if you wear a mask or not, don't wear a mask, or you wear a seatbelt or don't wear a seatbelt, nothing can happen without God's permission. Now let's look at chapter 3, verse 154 and 156 and 158. I'm not going to discuss the verses in between because they're not relevant, but you're free to look and read this in context, if you will. Okay, so here we have chapter 3, verse 154. Then sent he down upon you after distress security, slumber overcoming a number of you, and a number had worried their souls, assuming about God other than the truth, the assumption of ignorance, saying, Have we any part of the affair? Say thou, All the affair belongs to God. They hide within themselves what they reveal not to thee, saying, Had we any part of the affair, we would not have been slain here. Say thou, had you been in your houses, those for whom killing had been ordained would have gone forth to their resting places, and that God might try what is in your breasts, and that he might refine what is in your hearts. And God knows what is in the breasts. Okay? So God knows what is in the breasts. What was in their breasts? They were saying to Muhammad, did we have any part in the affair? Did we have any, is there something we could have done to basically change the outcome? And what they were actually saying, what they were hiding within their souls, which God knew, was, if we were, if it was up to us, we would not have been killed here. This is what they're actually thinking. And Muhammad was told to say to them that even if you were in your houses, you would have gone forth to your resting place, meaning that there is no changing the outcome that God has planned. And I think this is an important verse because, this is human nature. If something bad happens to us, a tragedy befalls, the first thing we do is start thinking about what we did, and, maybe if we had done something else, then we could have prevented this tragedy. And this is exactly what it is. This is the assumption of ignorance. We cannot change the outcome. We whatever is going to happen will happen. Okay, we read in chapter 3, verse 156. O you who heed warning, be not like those who are indifferent to warning. Okay, the allazina kafaru, and say of their brethren when they travel to the land or are on an expedition, had they been with us, they would not have died or been killed, that God might make that a sorrow in their hearts. And God gives life, and God gives death, and God sees what you do. So, these atheists have all these probabilities and figures to scare people with, and, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure, and all this nonsense. This is all negated in this verse. We are not to follow their example, these atheists who on the media who are constantly telling us to do this and do that to prevent the spread of some virus. Okay, here you go. Last one, chapter 3, verse 158. And if you die or are killed, to God will you be gathered. And that is the truth. You will be gathered to God. Even if you are given a long life, you will still be gathered to God. So let's make use of the time we are given on this world, instead of taking useless precautions. And I'll touch upon that as well later on in the video. Okay, and here's another one. Chapter 4, verses 78 and 79. Wheresoever you be, death will overtake you, and though you be in castles built high. And if good befalls them, they say this is from God. And if evil befalls them, they say this is from thee. Say thou, all is from God. Then what ails these people? They scarcely understand a statement. What befalls thee of good, it is from God. And what befalls thee of evil, it is from thyself. And we send thee to mankind as a messenger, and sufficient is God as witness. So death will find you no matter if you are holed up in castles built high. And this is actually an interesting theological argument here. It's saying if good befalls them, they say this is from God. And so basically anything good that happens to them, they attribute it to God. And anything evil happens to them, they attribute it to the messenger in this context. But this could be easily broadened to anyone who is using their reason. They would say, oh, this happened because of you didn't wear the mask, or you didn't get the vaccine. It says, say thou, all is from God. So everything is from God, good and evil, everything is from God. And what ails these people? They scarcely understand a statement. Now, the word used for statement, with Brother Grant's translating, it's actually hadith. And in the context of the Qur'an, the word hadith also means happenings. If you read the Surah Yusuf, it says that God taught him the interpretation of happenings, the events, tawil al-hadith. So here it is. It's saying they scarcely understand hadith. They're not understanding the reality of the situation. They're not realizing what's going on. What befalls you of good, what happens to you of good, that is from God. And what befalls you of evil, That is just a consequence of your own actions. Okay, so if you want to be if you don't want evil to befall you, you shouldn't be doing evil actions. That's what it is. It's not you should be reforming yourselves, but understand everything is from God, and He is the just. And we read in another place in the Quran that God says that He pardons and go and looks over, basically forgoes a lot of things that we do, but He does take men to account. He does seize them for their transgressions in this life and the next life. So if anything befalls you of evil, is because some evil that you've done before that you're basically getting the repercussions from off. Okay, here's another one, chapter 57, verses 22 and 23. No misfortune befalls in the earth or in yourselves, save is in a decree before you bring it into being. That is easy for God, that you grieve not over what eludes you, and nor exult at what comes to you. And God loves not every egoist and boaster. So everything has already been decreed before it is brought into being, and your actions do not change anything. Okay, here's another one. And this is talking about those people with Muhammad who were obviously not 100% committed in the Al-Kafirun. Chapter 9, verses 50 and 51. If good befalls you, it vexes them. But if misfortune befalls you, they say, we took our command before, and they turn away exulting. Say thou, nothing befalls us save what God decreed for us. He is our benefactor, and in God let the believers place their trust. Now, if you actually want safety in this life and you want to be protected from evil, then this is what the Quran suggests. This is chapter 3, verses 173 and 174. Those to whom men say, the people have gathered against you, so be afraid of them. But it increases them in faith, and they say, sufficient for us is God, and excellent is the guardian. And they return with grace and bounty from God. Evil touches them not when they seek the good pleasure of God, and God is one possessing tremendous bounty. So if you are seeking the good pleasure of God by delivering His messages, by trying to purify yourself, by being sincere, then evil will not touch you. And also understand that none feel safe from the plan of God except those who are in loss. So we should always be circumspect, and we should always be turning back to God and asking Him for help and fearing His punishment. And as far as putting on a mask to protect you from a virus, and we should be listening to the experts, always use a reason, okay? And here's the reasoning behind me not wearing a mask. If these masks were actually effective, they would have standardized these masks, and they would not have allowed people to wear t-shirts or bandanas on their faces. And also they would have instructed people in the usage of these masks. None of these things were done, which tells you that putting on a mask is just another sign of submission. And that is why I refuse to wear a mask. It has nothing to do with me with if it would prevent viruses or not, because it clearly does not. And again, even if that was the case, it is still up to a person's own individual, if you will, satisfaction of soul, if they think that this is something to satisfy their soul or not. It doesn't provide any satisfaction to me, so that's why I don't wear it, and I trust in God. And this is what the believers are being called to trust in God and to not trust in these corrupt pharmaceutical companies and these corrupt politicians and these corrupt media people. What I'm saying to you, you already know. It's just that people have been so blinded by the fear and the theatrics that they have completely given up reason, and they are simply attacking those who are actually using reason by labeling them as lunatics and conspiracy theorists and anti-science and COVIDiots or whatever. And they need to understand that these terms were also given to them to use. It's not something they came up with their own. So as believers, we are to trust in God, and as Muslims, we are to submit to God's will. And no soul knows when it will die. And also, if they are so adamant that the mask can protect them, then the Quran also has a response to that. It says, then avert death from yourselves if you be truthful. In truth, no one can avert death from themselves. So again, this is a test for the believers, and the next phase of this test will be even more stringent. So I do advise people to turn back to God, repent to Him, seek His help, and ask for His strength, and to place your trust in God, and seek His good pleasure. This is the only way out, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, I hope this video was of some help to people. Inshallah, until the next video, peace and blessings be upon you.